Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So what am I doing here with two Shoei RF-1400s? Well, the answer is I have a Ruroc sitting here right now. Now this is the Atlas 3.0 and I'm going to do a review on this. I'm also going to be tearing some helmets apart. I'm going to make this video and do it as thoroughly as I possibly can. Ruroc, Shoei. Ruroc, Shoei. Now before this video goes any further, I want to make it very clear that in no way, shape, or form does what I think about a Big Mac or McDonald's have a direct reflection on what I think about Michael Jordan. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today. What I think about Ruroc, good, bad, or indifferent. This does not have any sort of direct reflection on anybody that's been marketing this helmet. It's just a matter of me trying to dive into this a little bit further and truly understand what the differences are between, say, a Shoei and a Ruroc. Because this is a bit of a hot button topic right now, I need to compare like for like. So helmet that's on the market today that's considered this brand's top of the line compared to this brand's top of the line. If I cut up the RFSR, people would reasonably be able to say, well, you cut up a helmet that's several years old, you're not really comparing like for like. And I felt like this was the only way to do it. So this is an expensive video for me to do. If you guys can like, share, subscribe, I usually leave that for the very end, but again, this is it's gonna be an expensive one to produce. One of the issues that I have is that Ruroc controls all of their distribution. From what I can tell today, unless you guys can see otherwise, leave in the comments down below. You can't buy a Ruroc unless you go to their website and buy a Ruroc. Now, their reviews on their website are run through Trustpilot. Now, the interesting thing about Trustpilot is that you can challenge negative reviews. When I looked into it, Ruroc in the last 12 months as I'm recording this video had challenged 65 of their negative reviews. To me, it was a little bit concerning when I saw that and said, okay, well, that is a little bit weird because with a Shoei, I can go to Amazon, Revzilla, Cycle Gear. There's a whole bunch of other stores that if you look up an RF-1400, you can go and find the reviews on those sites. Those stores really could care less whether they sell you a Bell, an Arai, a Shoei. Those reviews come in as they come in, and then over the course of time, that just becomes a source that you have to go and actually make a decision. So when I saw that this Ruroc situation, it's like, okay, well, they have Trustpilot, they control all the distribution, and there's also a level of trying to control, from what I can tell, in removing negative reviews. They don't challenge the positive ones. It's a little weird to me, and that's why I wanted to make this video. If I'm gonna say something about it, I might as well be able to speak on it from a position of really, truly tearing it down and comparing it to another helmet. So, with that being said, let's go ahead, unbox this Ruroc. Let's get into it. Atlas 3.0. Ruroc stickers, owner's manual, a face shield. Here we have the helmet, what appears to be a bottle opener. I never care about helmet bags. That cheek pad is garbage. This is that magnetic, fid lock, which everybody rants and raves about. I personally don't really care about the fid lock versus D-ring. I've just never found the D-rings to be hard to work with at all. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the interior lining of this helmet, and I can tell you right off the bat, the 1400 is significantly better. So here you can see the cheek pad. It's very, not a lot of foam there. It just feels like it just squishes right down. Now comparing that to the RF-1400, there's just kind of more there, it feels. Cheek pad to cheek pad just looks much nicer. Even the leather that you see here. I was actually very scared to cut these apart because I was afraid that I wasn't sure what I was gonna find, if anything. But I am very interested now to see. This is the magnetic release for the Shockwave. But otherwise, shell-wise, it seems constructed nice. I mean, I don't have any issues with the shell. So I'm actually gonna swap this over just for the sake of the video, because this is how I would ride with it. I want to use the other visor. Okay, the idea of that being easier versus the practicality of it, maybe not so much, but I mean, that is nice. I had to wrestle with it more than I anticipated. Yeah, okay. So that is nice, but I still had to wrestle with it probably just as much as I do with the Shoei. So just because it's different doesn't make it better. It's just different. That's my opinion. Let's see how it fits. Yeah, that's too loose. I feel the helmet size would be right if the cheek pads were the right size, or thicker, I suppose you'd say. My biggest gripe right there is now it's the wrong size. So if I was gonna ride with this long term, which I don't plan on doing, I would have to send it back to Ruroc. It's going back to the UK. The way I understand it, they would take the shipping charges themselves to send it back and get the right size. But it took me 2.5 weeks to get this helmet. So shipping it back would take significant time. I presume getting one back would take just as much time. So what are you, a month away from getting a helmet again? So put it on my head. The whole liner feels like it kind of moves around as you're putting it on your head. I don't feel that with the Shoeis. So there's the fid lock. Maybe that's a learning curve, but I tell you right now, I don't know. I don't care about the fid lock. I mean, guys, I can take this helmet. You hit the ground like this, and the helmet moves like that. You are seriously in trouble. I'm going to ride with this thing for the sake of the review, but my God, that's a lot of movement. So this is an extra large Ruroc. This is an extra large Shoei. This is tight. 60 and a half. So 60 and a half, that puts me right outside of a large. 61 would be extra large. So the fitment of the Ruroc, I've seen people complain about sizing. Seems to be a valid issue. I think that if this helmet had slightly more or thicker cheek pads, that it would fit appropriately. I think for lack of filling out the interior is what's causing that fitment. So let's go out, take her for a ride. Aside from the fact that this helmet is too big, I will say that I can tell you it is significantly louder than the RF-1400 to the point where I almost feel like I'm not wearing a helmet. To put it in perspective, I do not ride with earplugs with my RF-1400 unless I'm going on like an all-day kind of like ride. If I'm commuting back and forth to work or out on a weekend for anything less than, I'd say, a couple hours, I really don't worry about the earplugs because the RF-1400, in my opinion, takes out enough of the exhaust note and the wind and things like that, that it's good enough. So this helmet is louder. It is 100 degrees outside right now, and I mean, it vents well. Now riding with a windshield, that's kind of part of this. There's not a lot of wind hitting my face until about here. So if I kind of push my head up high, this is sort of where it's at. I mean, getting out into open air, yeah, I mean, it flows pretty good. Now, as far as visibility goes, I don't personally think it's bad. You know, being able to see peripheral, it's fine. It does whistle. Yeah, it does whistle if you open that all the way. The one thing I will say I can see, and it's a little bit distracting out of the corners of my eyes, is right here, the pin lock attachment is, it's right there. So that is slightly annoying to see that out of the corners of your eyes. I don't see that on the 1400, which leads me to believe that the pin lock on the 1400 is just slightly back out of your field of view a little bit more. There's also a little bit of a
stench in this thing. Like, it smells like glue or something. It's not terrible, but it's there. So talking about reasons why I'm concerned about the safety rating of this helmet is also part of the cheek pad discussion. Is I watched Moto Tigress in her initial review state this.
What you are seeing now is a photo comparison of the first set of pads that were designed for this helmet. And then on the right is the pads that were actually shipping with the helmet. They actually banned me from the group because I posted those side-by-side photos that showed the difference between the two pad types.
So my concern, and the question I would have for Ruroc, is if the cheek pads were designed this way and then sent off for ECE testing, got approved, and then for some reason, that whether it was a manufacturing issue or whatever the cause was to make you go with a different cheek pad, well, I would assume that cheek pad has a part to do with the rating of ECE. Is the helmet technically considered ECE rated still if they changed components? You know, again, that's a question. I don't know if that's the case. Well, I'm happy I didn't love this helmet because it makes the next part of this video much easier.
So this is where we are now. And, you know, interesting enough, when I cut these apart, I actually at first said, you know, I don't really see a whole lot of difference. And on the surface, there really wasn't a lot. But I will say that now that I've had a chance off camera to really dig into this and figure out what I think is really wrong with Ruroc compared to, say, a Shoei, there is certainly some things to look at here. So number one, when I'm riding with this helmet, I said I thought that it was very loud. I'm going to show you exactly why I think that it is very loud. Also, the cheek pads, I think I figured out what's going on with the cheek pads as well. So on the surface, when you look at these two helmets, you can see this is the Shoei, and then insert in the Ruroc. You really don't see a whole lot of difference. The foam thickness appears to be pretty similar. Construction-wise, the shells, you know, the Shoei's a little bit thicker, but then the Ruroc is a carbon fiber, so it's stronger, so it's a little bit thinner, and you go back and forth looking at it like that and kind of go, yeah, they're about the same, no big deal. And actually, I was honestly impressed with the Ruroc because the way people have talked about it, I half expected to cut into this thing and see like candy corn fall out of it or something, but there's legitimate foam in here as far as like a protection layer. And I was kind of impressed with that. But that's where the impressive stuff ends, to be quite honest with you, because what I've noticed is that the difference between a premium helmet and a marketed premium helmet, in my opinion, is all of the details inside the helmet, which is basically the liner. If Ruroc were able to come up with a really good liner, I think this helmet would be right there with Shoei. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Number one, when you pull this helmet out and start feeling the pads, the first thing you think is like, man, these pads feel cheap. Right off the bat, comparing the pads between Ruroc and Shoei, you can see there is engineering thought and effort that goes into the Shoei end of things more so than what I think Ruroc did. This is, again, all just my opinion, but you can tell the way the foam is layered over here. There's different foam, there's different direction of the foam, and that affects the sponginess of how this all works. With Ruroc, you just have one piece of foam. There's nothing really there. They basically, in my opinion, just took one sheet of foam and it's sitting in this cheek pad. And that's why you don't really have a whole lot of elasticity in this pad to keep it pressed firm against your cheek. The Shoei, there's actually multiple layers of foam in here. And then as you get even further into the pad, you start actually even building it out even more. You have all of these layers of foam. If I go even further, pull the whole thing right out, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of foam where at your cheekbone here, and as you get closer to your mouth, it layers out. This is where you have all of this filling out that compared to the Ruroc pad, there's nothing. I mean, it just feels so much different. It just kind of collapses down and there's not a whole lot of pushback on your face, as opposed to Shoei is actually giving you a little bit of pushback on your cheeks where it needs to be. Ruroc, Shoei. Ruroc, Shoei. So that's my first assessment on cheek pads. Now, the next thing I'll talk about is the actual interior liner of the helmet. You see kind of more of the same here, where the back of your head, you actually have some built out different foam than what you have in the rest of the helmet in different areas. Meanwhile, with Ruroc, again, you're just in that same, the one kind of foam they use throughout apparently the entire helmet. It's just all the same foam kind of everywhere. That to me is, I don't know what that is. It's a materials thing, but over here with the Shoei, you can see they have thicker foam here. It actually gets thicker out towards the side of your head. Over here you have another kind of foam towards the back of your head. And then you have also different kinds of fabrics and materials on the inside. So you have this nice mesh that this feels great on your head. I can confirm, I wear it all the time. Hot, sweat, all that stuff, different kind of material here than what you have on the top of the helmet. There just seems to be more thought that goes into the inside of a Shoei, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing here, than just kind of using the same material throughout. This just appears to be less, I'm gonna say it, less, in my opinion, just appears less premium than what you get over here with the Shoei. It just appears to me that what Shoei is doing is using multiple materials to achieve a specific result, where in my opinion it looks to me as if Ruroc is just using the same material all the way through. I don't know if that's a cost thing or what it is, or if it's a choice. I don't know, but I can tell you, I think the Shoei feels better. Now, I have heard people say that they do think Shoeis are loud. That's kind of part of the subjective part of helmets. However, I will say Ruroc, very much louder than the Shoei. And when I tore this apart, it makes sense. Reason being, this is the cheek foam that you get out of the Ruroc. Come over here to Shoei, and you really quickly realize it's not just the carbon fiber shell that makes the Ruroc louder, it's the fact that this right here is the foam from the Shoei. A whole lot of material here. This is where your ear rides. You can see they have the speaker cut out there. The Ruroc there's like nothing here. So measuring right where your ear would go, I am measuring 7 millimeters of thickness here, right where your ear goes. Over here with Shoei, I'll try to measure it actually from like a thinner spot. You have 23 millimeters or so. You're kind of ranging it. It kind of goes up and down. So you're between like 24 and 27, somewhere in that range, millimeters. So you're like almost 3 times thicker here. You also even see differences where the chin strap comes through. In my opinion, it seems like the Shoei, the way that they've angled this down, there's a foam cutout in here. They paid attention to how much open area is here that sound can basically come through and travel into your helmet. The Ruroc is just one giant cutout. There's not really a whole lot behind it. It just seems like one area where you would have an awful lot more sound transmission. So that to me, again, in layman's terms, seems to make sense. So there's that. The biggest problem I think that you have with sound, they have this fake vent cut in right here. So on the Shoei, where you actually have, well, nothing there, as a matter of fact, it seems to actually bow out a little bit at your ear. It's probably hard to see that. It just seems like everything with this helmet has some sort of intent around function. Now, it's I don't know. It's like Ruroc intentionally put this fake vent here that captures all that wind, and I can only imagine there's like a wind tunnel effect that happens right here. Your ear is legitimately sitting right over top of where that fake vent is. So they made a stylistic choice to go this route. Less foam, an indentation that I can only imagine, like I said, catches wind. I don't know. And that's got, to me, it's got to be why it's louder. I don't see any other way around it. You also have a vent that's cut in right here. Again, your ear is right here, so you have a vent right here, and you're bringing wind, basically, I would assume, again, straight into your ear. I mean, this all seems like an intentional stylistic choice. So when people tell you that Ruroc is louder, I think it's meant to be that way, not just because it's a carbon fiber shell. So there you have it. That is my teardown of the Ruroc Atlas 3.0. I just wanted to do this because, again, if I'm going to speak on anything, I want to make sure that I'm putting my money where my mouth is and really in a position to be able to do it thoroughly. This was an expensive video to put together, but I thought that the community really at this point almost needed it to be something that was just really torn into and kind of analyzed. I was going to do a report card kind of thing. I went through and ranked all of the metrics of the helmet, but to be honest with you, I feel like I've provided all of the information that I could possibly provide, and throwing some sort of personal assessment on scoring and coming up with some sort of scoring system just seems to be like it might be piling on. And at this point, that's not what I'm really here for. I just wanted to present the information as the information was presented to me, and I guess put it out there for you guys. I mean, I'm sure I did share enough of my opinions through the course of making this video, but again, I'm just trying to put some information out there where I feel it's needed. And to close the video out, again, this is not a direct reflection on how I feel about any other content creators, by no means. And if anybody out there is viewing it that way, they got me wrong. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I'll see you guys next time.